Do you know a woman has got rights to the extent that if she doesn't want to breastfeed her own child and she wants to be paid for breastfeeding or to be a wet nurse, she's supposed to be paid.
As an outsider looking in, Islam looks like a religion that is oppressive towards women.
Men are the overseers. It does not say they are the rulers. They are the overseers of women. We refer to God as He. That does not mean He's a male. No.
When was the hijab introduced as a garment for women, and what role does it play?
In Islam, if a qadi, a male, has fought at home and comes angrily, he is not allowed to rule. She said it openly on live TV and said, I gave my body to get this position.
What is the position of women in Islam? Is it a story of empowerment or inequality, or justice or control? In today's episode, we'll be looking at women in Islam in the prehistory, during, and after the Prophet, peace be upon him, period. We have our curator, Msomi, and our guest is Sheikh Muhammad Khan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. My name is Sheikh Muhammad Khan, a human rights activist, an imam, interfaith person, and I've got several other things that I do, but those are my main positions. And I also, by coincidence, happen to be the he for she ambassador for women, men promoting women's issues, and I'm the Muslim ambassador for Laudato Si from the Vatican on environment. And that's just a brief of exactly what I do in life.
I am Msomi, the curator of Book Night. I do not profess the Muslim faith. As an outsider looking in, Islam looks like a religion that is oppressive towards women. The reason why is that after the Taliban took off Afghanistan, what we heard was that women were being taken out of schools. I've also heard that in Saudi Arabia, women are not allowed to drive themselves around or get driving licenses. However, Islam has a very long history. And if you could go back to the days of Prophet Muhammad, can you provide a context between pre-Prophet Muhammad and during his period? What was the status of women with regard to their legal identity as people, with regard to their rights in marriage, divorce, and property ownership?
Thank you so much. By coincidence, I happen to have worked very closely with the Taliban. I was at the war front. So what you're telling me basically is just what the media has given you. I have lived in Afghanistan. I have lived in Pakistan. I have been with the Taliban during the Mujahideen era and even after that. So yes, the girls were taken out of school. But no one told you the reason why. Because what had happened is when the Taliban came in, they found that most of the education institutions had become dating sites. So girls and boys, instead of going there to study, were going there to date each other and end up in illicit relationships. So whenever a government comes in, sometimes you have to put your foot down before now you start streamlining things. So that's exactly what Taliban did. And the Taliban are not against girls' education. My daughters, mashallah, one is In fact, the way you're talking right now, she's just written a book for kids. She wanted to become an architect, but she's now doing computer science. The other one is a medical student, and they're both working. But what is the difference? Probably we as Pathans, though as Talibans, we are Pashtuns. We don't like our women exposing themselves, and even Islam does not allow that. And the West, like you see currently what is happening in Iran, okay? It's a coincidence that we came up with this topic just today. What is happening in Iran is basically they want the woman to uncover. I don't have to be uncovered to be educated. You can see the way I'm dressed up. It's not only for the women, even the men are supposed to dress up modestly. Like if you look at me, you don't know whether I've got a six-pack or a tumbo pack. Okay? So I'm supposed to cover up my body so that the woman is not tempted. It's not just the men. Remember, even the women look at us. Okay, they look at you behind, they look at your body. It's just that they are not as open as we are as men. So basically, it's trying to protect both men and women. But our cultures are such that whenever something happens, we usually take the weaker sex. Like today, if you ask me, what is the cultural dress for Africa, you tell me kitenge. But kitenge is worn by women, not by men. So if you ask me what is the cultural dress for men, most people don't know. So that is where now the whole misunderstanding is coming, that women are being oppressed. No, it's just that the women usually stand out more than the men. During the Prophet's era, before he became a prophet, Islam was not there. The Arabs were there. They used to oppress women to the extent that if someone had a girl child, he used to mourn about it. And some had even gone to the extent of burying the girl child alive. I remember Umar radiallahu anhu, the second Khalif, he said there are two incidences which I remember. One of them makes me laugh extremely and the other one makes me really cry. The one that makes me laugh is whereby my wife had baked bread for me in the form of a god when I was traveling. And saying when I was traveling, I felt hungry. So I told my so-called God, I'm feeling hungry, let me eat your leg. So he ate the leg just to keep up with hunger. After some time, I still felt hungry, so I ate the other leg. And in the end, I finished up the whole goat. So he's saying, I was laughing at, we were worshipping things that were not even able to protect themselves, we were eating them. And he said, I cried when I went to bury my daughter alive. I was there digging the grave, and she was wiping the sand from my beard and laughing. Daughters usually love their fathers much more than sons. And saying, then the same girl I put in the grave and she was crying out and I was burying her. He said, when I remember that incident, I cry out. And this is what was there before Islam. So Islam basically came to liberate women. But sad to say, today the same called westernized world who call out about democracy. We can see the democracy that they're proposing today. You can see what they're doing in Iran. You can see what they did in Palestine and Gaza. You can see what they're doing in Sudan. It is just about their material interests. So to them, if their interests are there, it is right. If it is not there, it is wrong. So they never try to understand anything about Islam. So as much as we propagate, but the thing is, they always paint a bad picture of Islam and of the oppressed woman. Do you think putting on a hijab is oppression? No, it's not. For us as Pathans, we want our girls to be educated, but not to forget our culture. I am educated. Okay, I do a lot of programs with UNEP. I work in. I have been trained by the American embassy because I did interfaith. I was taken for a training to the US, and I dress up this way. I have not lost my culture because most people don't understand the difference between westernization and modernization. I am as modern as modern can be. In fact, I might even be more educated than some of these people who are in three-piece suits, but I'm not Western. So that is where the misconception has come about.
Right. So is there scriptural evidence from the Qur'an that Prophet Muhammad was progressive and was advocating for women's representation and rights?
Yes. There are lots of needs to the extent that one day the women complained to the Prophet and said, why is it that when any revelation comes, it talks about men? So then an ayah came. إن المسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات والقانتين والقانتات والذاكرين والذاكرات. So it came that the men and the women, the believing men and the believing women. So it's sort of say that we remember, but usually when a verse comes, or when we are speaking, usually we refer to God as He. That does not mean He's a male. No, it's that because of masculinity, we refer to anything masculine as He. Like you see in the Arabic, the sun is a female. The sun is a female, and it is the hottest planet on in the galaxy. Why? Because it is what we call there's a فلما رأى الشمس بازغة قال هذا ربي فلما أفلت. Okay, when Ibrahim alayhi salam saw the sun and said فلما رأى الشمس بازغة, the ta there shows it's a feminine. So it does not mean that the sun is feminine, but that is the vocabulary that is used in Arabic. So the same way, the Prophet Muhammad sallam, when he came, he found the girls were oppressed. Okay, they are being buried alive. He took them out of that. And then when it comes to inheritance, women were not inheriting. Okay, and Islam came out with explicit ayahs and explicit shares for women. Yes, they are getting a lesser share. I will explain that later on why. But today, even in the African culture, I was in the Kenya Land Women's Alliance with my elder Sheikh Ibrahim Ledome. And the Christian women, when they heard about the rights of the Muslim women, most of them were even ready to become Muslims. They're saying, hey, these women have got more rights than men. Do you know a woman has got rights to the extent that if she doesn't want to breastfeed her own child and she wants to be paid for breastfeeding or to be a wet nurse, she's supposed to be paid.
Really?
Yes.
I see.
And if she doesn't want to cook for you, you cannot force her. It is mutual respect that she cooks for you, she cleans for you. She is not obligated. Her only obligation to you is to make or to give you intimate rights. That's all. She is not supposed to do anything else. All these others are through culture and mutual respect.
I see. So again, with regard to religious teachings and as carriers of the faith, is there women who are closely involved in teaching Islam during the early days, during the Prophet days?
The best teacher of jurisprudence is Aisha radiallahu anha. All the Sahaba learned from her. She was the wife of the Prophet Muhammad sallam. She was very young when she got married, and all our jurisprudence issues emanate from her because she understood the Prophet much more than anyone else. There's no other Sahaba who gives jurisprudence as much as she does. So basically, it is just that women don't go out exposing themselves. They teach from behind closed doors, whereby they don't compromise. They don't compromise the nudity. Okay, they don't go out exposing themselves, but they teach. Even my wife is a teacher, and in fact, I would like even to appreciate this. She's a better teacher than me.
Oh, is that so?
Yes, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm man enough to own up to that. She's a better teacher than me.
It's very.
Yes, because
It takes a lot of courage for
it's not courage. It's because you people don't understand us. You people have taken a wrong picture. Okay, for me and her, we are humans. Each one has our own qualities, and God has made us all different. There are things that she can do, I can't. There are things I can do, she can't. Okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made us in such a way that if a man is intelligent, a woman is clever. Wanasemanga mwanaume akiwa mwerevu, mwanamke anakuwa mjanja. So you see, if I'm stronger, she's more persevering. Try giving birth. You cannot give birth. When a man goes through constipation, I know the pain you have. So imagine what the childbirth that she goes through. And a man is a better investor. But if a woman is not a better saver, that's why they say behind every man there's a woman. Because if she's not saving and she's spendthrift, you cannot make it in life. But that's what we don't understand.
So again, though you have mentioned that is regard to access to advanced levels of education. Post-Muhammad period, during the early days of the spread of Islam outside of Arabia, were there like women scholars, or what we know is they are male clerics, also the ones who come to mind, but they are women scholars?
Yes, there are women scholars, but you see, we all have our limitations and we all have our positions. Remember, God gave some priorities to Adam, which he did not give to Hawa. So those are the limitations. In generally, there are more men scholars than women. But there are, some specific cases whereby you find, like the way I owned up that my wife is a better teacher than me. Why? Because I know. Okay? That does not mean that all women are better teachers. But these are specifics, but generally, men are usually at the forefront. Okay, so during the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's era, let's not even need to talk about the Prophet. During Solomon's time, there was a queen called Bilqis, who later on became a Muslim. Bilqis was ruling people, but when Solomon knew about her, she was richer than Solomon. She was richer than Solomon. But when she joined Solomon, she became what you call submissive. You know, there's a difference between oppression and submissive. Like you see, the Ugandan women are very submissive, but that does not mean that they're weak. Now, there's a difference between being weak and meek. Women are meek, not weak.
Okay.
That's what we need. We don't get the picture. But being meek usually excites a man, because when a woman is submissive, it makes the man feel more masculine. It does not mean that he is a better than me, because the ayah says, الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض. That men are the overseers. It does not say they are the rulers. They are the overseers of women. The same way when a tourist comes into the country, he needs a guide. The guide cannot do without the tourist, and the tourist cannot do without the guide. We cannot say one is better than the other. They all complement each other. Okay, they don't compete with each other. Same way, men are supposed to be overseers of women, not govern them and rule them. So that is where now we are supposed to understand that men and women are supposed to complete each other. What you have, I don't have. What she has, I don't have. What I have, she doesn't have. And that's why when it comes to provision, the men are supposed to be the breadwinners and providers, devoid of how much the women are earning. Khadija radiallahu anha was a businesswoman. She had employed Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Muhammad was a man and he was an employee of Khadija. Khadija was a lady. And this was pre-Islamic era. And when Islam came, it did not remove her from business. She used to do business, but she used to do business in such a way that she used to have agents to go out and do those things, because there's things that women can't do. Traveling, okay? Sometimes the women finds it difficult, but she had got agents. Muhammad Sallallahu was her agent. So she was the businesswoman. She was richer than Muhammad. So Islam did not prohibit that.
I see. So in history, are there specific women that stand out as scholars?
Yes. The university in Morocco, it's I usually don't know how to pronounce the name. Qarnin. It's a lady scholar. She's the one who formed the first Islamic university in the world, not even in Europe, in the world, and it is existing to date. What is it that she did? Zamzam, the river Zamzam that we have, the water that goes into Makkah, which is usually considered very holy. The river Zamzam was fed by other rivers by a lady called Zubaydah. Zubaydah was the wife of Harun Rashid. She is the one who diverted some rivers into that Zamzam well so as to provide water for the people of Makkah. So she stood out. Okay, that's what I'm telling you. Even when it comes to men, we all don't stand out, all of us, but there's some of us who stand out. So when it comes to standing out, it is as an individual, devoid of whether you're male or female.
Okay, I see. So let's go back to the issue of the hijab. When was the hijab introduced as a garment for women, and what role does it play?
Hijab, basically, if you look even at the pre-Islamic era, all the way from Abraham, all the way from Musa alayhi salam, when Moses was exiled by Pharaoh, he went and saw some two ladies sitting at a well, and they could not water their flock, the sheep and goats. And he asked them why. He said, because we are not strong enough to remove the stone. So you see, those were jobs that women could not do. So he said, we wait until the men have watered their stock, and then whatever water is left in the trough is what now we use for our sheep and goats. So he removed the stone and he watered their flock. So when they went back home, so the father was amazed. How did you come home so early today? He said, there was such a man there who helped us. So he said, can you go and get him? Now when she went to get him, the Sharia tells us that when she came and told Moses or Musa alayhi salam that my father wants to see you, Moses said, walk behind me, I will walk in front, you guide me, that turn right, turn left. Why was that done? It was out of modesty, because a woman's body basically is tempting, and we men, Even a man's body is tempting, but women are usually very timid. Unlike the men, if you see a woman walking in front of you, and I wouldn't like to use this word, and wiggling her behind, it tempts you. And remember, Jesus said also, "Thou shalt not tempt the Lord." This is the wording of Jesus. Thou shalt not tempt the Lord. So here you are as a human. So he told her, walk behind me so that I don't see your figure. She was guiding him. She was the guide, but he was the one in front. So modesty usually takes care of all people. So when it comes to hijab, it was there during Moses alayhi salam's time. It was in a different form. If you look at Jesus, even Mary was wearing a hijab. It was just that she was not covering her face. So now there's hijab and niqab. Niqab is the one which came later. Hijab was already there. Hijab means modest clothing, and it is there for both men and women. The way I told you, even me as a man, I'm supposed to cover my head. I'm supposed to make sure I'm not temptuous to any woman. Okay, when I talk, I should talk in a formal way. The same way today we've got the mobile phones. Even when a woman is allowed to answer the phone, but she should answer it in such a way that the person at the other hand does not feel tempted. She should answer it in a formal way. And if she knows that how, even a woman's voice is so melodious that sometimes it attracts you. You have not even seen her, but sometimes you are attracted by the voice. So that's why Islam takes care of these things, as tries to minimize, not oppress, minimize the interaction between opposite sexes so that we are not tempted. Remember today, if now, there's some cultures which have gone a bit extreme. Okay, like in the Taliban, you find that the woman, the hijab that my sister here is wearing is not the hijab that they wear there. Then they cover the face, it's like a sack. So you don't even know behind that burqa, it's called a burqa, whether it's an old lady or a young lady, whether it's a beautiful lady or whether it's just a average woman. So may God forbid, if you go and rape such a person whereby you don't know whether she's old or young or extremely beautiful or average, then it means you're mentally sick. But when you come to me, you're wearing a miniskirt, your cleavage is also shown, and I as a man, even if I'm a sheikh, I'm tempted. And then God forbid, nikukati alafu, you refuse. As a man, what do? I will use the instinct that I have, which is force. Okay? For the woman, I usually also tell some of my friends that the women also usually rape men, but they do it by plotting. Okay, they plot in such a way that they make you tempted into getting them. Unlike a man, he does not plot; he uses his strength. So that's why what is termed as rape is because of the strength. But I feel that we should have a law that should also need that if a woman tempts me, okay, there's a very beautiful word for it. I've forgotten it. Seduction. If she seduces me, that should also be rape.
I see.
Yeah, because she's using her trait to get me. I have the masculinity; she has got the femininity. So that seduction should also be considered a rape.
Okay. So, with regard to, and in this contemporary period, when I talk about the contemporary period as far back as 1900s, are women allowed to actively participate in politics?
Politics is not for everyone, and it's not a cup of tea. And with the current politics, I will discourage women, because the current politics, whereby, remember, we have the gender balance and so forth, and we have seen it very openly. There's most of these gender balance positions are given to girlfriends, okay, or for women who have slept with the people in position. Like just like an example of Gloria Orwoba, the nominated senator. The other day she was dismissed, and she came out openly and said, "Nilipeana." She said it openly on live TV and said, "I gave my body to get this position. There was no other qualification I had." And I've worked in politics since 2013. I have seen girls and women, even Rachel Shebes and the rest. They got these positions because of their sexual advances, not because they were qualified. Okay. Others, if you ask me what was their qualification, they have no qualification, and that is where even we men are disadvantaged. Whereby, if I go for an interview and I've got the same qualifications as a woman, then and only then they should prefer gender. But I go for an interview and she has no qualifications and she still gets the job based on gender. That is wrong. Gender should only come in when we have the same qualifications, then that should be an added advantage. It should not come in just because she's a woman. And that is where we did not understand this law properly.
Okay. But in the last, say, 100 or so years, are there women who have stood out as political figures?
Not even in the last 100 years. Aisha radiallahu anha, she led the infantry against Ali radiallahu anhu to avenge the death of Uthman. So she was leading a whole cavalry of Sahaba during immediately after the Prophet's demise by around 30 years. Why? Because Uthman, the Khalifa, was murdered. So she incited the Sahaba or the companions to seek revenge and seek justice. So she was leading an infantry. So even at that time, the women are allowed. It's not that they are not allowed, but there's some limitations. You see, the way a man commands is different from the way a woman commands. And she was commanding an army of over 100,000 people. Yes, and they fought and against Ali, and Ali basically won the war. But this shows that she was the commander-in-chief of men. If Islam was oppressing women, how will the companions of the Prophet listen to her? They listened to her.
Okay. So it also means that a woman can become a Muslim, can become a president, for instance.
Yes,
Okay.
he can become a president. But the only limitation is now, basically, there are very few women, because generally they are not allowed to become leaders. But there are few exceptions. Like I showed you the name of Aisha Anna. I showed you the example of Zubaydah. I showed you the example of the Qarwanin University. All these are ladies. So exceptions are usually not the general norm. You see, the law in Kenya, the constitution gives guidelines. But when you go to the court, you find along with the constitution, there's some people who still can twist the laws. Why? Because there are some sub-clauses. The same way in Islam. Islam does not say that women should generally just be blotted out. But it says, basically, this is the work of men. But there are some women who stand out. They are received. They are welcomed. They are appreciated. They are allowed to lead. But like the other day, there was an issue about the chief Qadi being a woman. And I was the main guy against it. Why? Because when it comes to Qadi's courts are not, unlike the constitution, whereby we can discuss, because these are man-made. The Qadi's courts are not man-made. This is Sharia law. And I told them, look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no woman who was a prophetess. Why? Is God wrong? No. Maryam alayhi salam, the best female on earth. Islam calls the mother of Jesus the best female on earth, even above Aisha and the rest. She was the best female on earth, yet Allah did not make her a prophetess. And then when he rewarded her because of her piety and righteousness, he gave her Isa alayhi salam, whom we call Jesus, without a man. Because if there was a man involved, the lineage will have gone to the man.
Okay.
So he gave her a son without a man to reward her for her piety. And this shows that if God has got need, should we say these are the laws of nature? That God did not reward any woman with prophethood.
Okay.
So how can we men now come in and say, no, a woman can be a chief Qadi? And then you see, women usually have their monthly periods. And during these periods, they've got mood swings. And in Islam, if a Qadi, a male, has fought at home and comes angrily, he's not allowed to rule. He cannot make a ruling when he's in that mood. So how will you know that the mood swing of a woman? So some of these limitations are because of the nature of a woman, because she has got mood swings. Okay, when you lose blood, it really irritates you. I know how women go through this. Okay, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I've been a brother. I know how the mood swings affect the women. Some of them become so extreme that the women cannot even think straight. So that is why these limitations sometimes come in. But there are some women who, even with these laws of nature, they still can act with a sound mind. So Islam does not prohibit that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, as we conclude, I wanted to hear your final remarks around the place of women in Islam. Like, what is your personal opinion?
Personally, I have, mashallah, worked my way in such a way that to me, I appreciate both my daughters and my sons. By coincidence, when I had my firstborn as a daughter, and in hospital, and I was really excited, and the nurses were looking at me at like, "You excited at getting a daughter?" I said, "Yes." You guys don't understand the value of a daughter, and having a daughter as my firstborn is the greatest, I think, gift God gave me. My secondborn is also a daughter. My thirdborn is a son. I make sure inside my house she gets respected because she's the eldest. Devoid of that, she's a female. You know, women sometimes try to, but the brothers sometimes tries to boss her around. But he knows when Papa is there, I cannot do that. So I've made them realize that as much as she is a girl, she's still the eldest. But there are some things that she will not do. Like when it comes to now running my madrasa, she will not do that. She has been an administrator in my madrasa and she has taught a lot of things right. And she's right now an administrator in another school. But there are some things that my boy will do that she cannot do. So we have got limitations and freedom. I do not oppress them, but I make sure at the same time she understands her place in society. For me, a woman has got her own place and a man has got his own place. There's no way we can mix the two. And there's no way we can say one is better than the other. Each situation needs a different approach. So when it comes to her being the eldest, she's the eldest. But when it comes to him being the man, if I'm not around, he'll be in charge of the house. Okay, so God forbid if I'm not in the house and something a danger occurs. Basically, it's the boy who will stand out. It's not the girl. So they know. So that is how I've brought them up.
All right. I see.
Last but not least, also a lot of people are talking about women going out to work. I'm very much proud that today, especially COVID set a lot of things right. Those people who are talking against hijab, they're the same people when God put masks on their faces. You see, and we start realizing the beauty of the mask. So sometimes that mask came because we were like trying to sort of mock the hijab. And then also my wife used to go out to work, but when COVID came in, she now today works online from home and she still earns an income. Okay, so sometimes you ask yourself, is it a must for a woman to go out? And there's some jobs that will never be done by women. And also I find feminism is basically a curse. Although I'm a he for she activist, but feminism is a curse. These women who are sitting very comfortably at home, what happened is that during our parents' time and our grandparents' time, we used to wake up in the morning, we find our clothes ready. When you're going to school, you find your uniform is ready, breakfast on the table, the water, because at that time they either used to use charcoal to heat the water or the heater. You used to find the bath and the shower is ready. So we men used to live like kings when women were working at home. They were working at home. But what happened is we did not value what she was contributing to the family. Basically, the West sort of corrupted us into thinking that if you're not bringing money, if you're not adding financial value to the house, then you're useless. And that is what made the women go out. A lot of women today, as much as they are empowered, are saying that that life was better. Why? Because they were living like queens and they are making us live like kings. But because the West corrupted us into thinking that if you are not bringing any financial value to the family, then you are useless. We forgot that without her, the home has become today renderless. We have had this school arsons whereby secondary schools and were being burnt, especially boarding. And we did a research and found, why were these boys burning schools? Because these boys basically had no authority at home. The women, the career women were going out to work. The men were going out to work. So who was left with the children? The maid. And the maid, being an employee, could not boss around the kids. So these kids, when they went to school and they found the teachers trying to boss them, they said, "Who are you? My parents are paying you." So you see where the attitude came from? When they were being bossed, when we were being bossed by our mothers, we had already accepted authority. So when we went to school and our teachers bossed us, we accepted that authority. But these kids, because when the mother was absent, when the father is absent, it's not such an issue. But when the mother is absent, there's no emotional attachment. So these kids started committing arsons. And that's why we started now trying to see how can we bring the women back home. Okay. Personally, I also tried to get some laws into parliament, which I'm sorry to say, your own women reps brought them down. One was I wanted to increase the maternity leave from 3 months to 6 months. Safaricom has accepted it. It was being done at Oxfam. I wanted the 3 months leave to be full day, and then the other 3 months should be half day, so that the woman by noon she will go home to feed a child, because 3 months is not enough to breastfeed a child. Even 6 months is not enough. And then also I wanted to reduce the working hours for women, for career women. When a woman comes home at 5, okay, not even us in Africa. I've traveled all over the world. I've been to South Korea, I've been to US, I've been to Middle East. The women there still fend for the families when it comes to household chores. They're still expected to cook. They're still expected to take care of the children. So this lady who comes home at 5, she is worn out. Yet the husband still expects her to cook. And then he still expects her to be intimate in bedroom matters. So I was like, no, this is sort of like the women have not been empowered. Basically, they're juggling between two jobs. They're still doing the housework. They're still being housewives, okay? So I felt that this was now a burden on them. So I had suggested that we reduce the working hours for career women, so that by 3 p.m., they should have left their workplace. So by around 4, they are home. They have at least 1 hour to refresh, so that when the husband comes home, he finds a fresh wife. Okay, but I'm sorry to say that the women rep started saying, "Oh, Sheikh, stop pitting us." I'm not pitting you. I was pitting myself, because when I come home and I find my wife is fresh, who benefits me? But I could not push the law, because I was not a member of parliament. And inshallah, when I go to parliament, I'll bring back this law, because I'll try to explain how it is beneficial. As much as now we cannot push back the woman to becoming a housewife, but basically she has now become overburdened, such that she's juggling between the house life and career. She still has to perform her duties at home, which is wrong. Thank you. You can see I've got a book here that talks about women and how they go to the masjid to perform prayers. During the Prophet Muhammad's time, they used to go out to perform prayers. Then during Umar's time, they were sort of prohibited. And also there's a hadith of the Prophet that says that the prayer of the women in her house is much more worthy than her prayer in the masjid. So I want you to come and read this book and understand the aspect of why women should be more focused in praying in their houses instead of going to the masjid. Jazakumullah khair.